I want to talk about walking away. We have this story from AP. Some Democrats voting in GOP primaries to block Trump picks. They go on to say, Diane Murray struggled with her decision all the way up to the election day. But when the time came, the 54-year-old, can we pull this up?
Yeah, sorry.
The 54-year-old Georgia Democrat cast a ballot in last week's Republican primary for Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. While state law allowed her to participate in either party's primary, she said it felt like a violation of her core values to vote for the Republican, but it had to be done. She decided to prevent Donald Trump-backed election denier from becoming the battleground state election chief. Quote, I feel strongly that our democracy is at risk, and that people who are holding up the big lie, as we call it, are holding onto the former president are dangerous to our democracy. Okay, blah, 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 blah. There was data that came out that showed in Georgia, 7% of the Republican primary votes were former Democrats. And the media then came out and started saying things like this. Oh, this is Democrats trying to sabotage Trump. And I'm like, that's a really bad thing to say, even if it's true, that the will of the people is being subverted by people who are trying to sabotage a primary. But I don't believe it's true. I don't believe that 7%, we're talking about 100,000 people, were all like, we're Democrats, but we're going to vote the Republican race to ruin Trump's chances.
Is it bad that I absolutely believe it?
You do believe that 100,000 people who voted did it because they hate Trump?
I believe it's possible.
I didn't say it's not possible.
Yeah.
I believe that it is just extremely unlikely. And the reality is, it's people who are like, the economy is in the gutter. There's a food shortage, a fuel shortage, and I'm paying $5 a gallon for gas. I'm voting Republican.
Yeah.
Well, look, I mean, money talks, and it speaks much more eloquently and effectively than any rhetoric. People have to throw, $6 into the pump to get a gallon of gas? Yeah, they're probably not going to vote for more of the same.
I'll to your point, though, it would be foolish of any Republican, conservative, right-wing, whatever you want to call it, to ignore this story.
100%.
Because rest assured, it may come election time and you're like, we got it in the bag. Look at the turnout from the Republican primaries, record breaking. And then all of a sudden there's a surge in Democrat votes because they really were trying to sabotage you.
I think it's absolutely possible that this is an organized effort to get in and sabotage things. I do think it can happen in the numbers that you just described. I think when you said earlier that these people have no principles, this could absolutely be an example of just that. But wait, hold on. My question for you is, I understand the state of the country and the price of gas and inflation, everything pushing people over to the right, or even making the decision, oh my God, I'm going to vote Republican, even though I've never done that in my entire life. But to switch parties and vote in primaries, I'm not so sure.
That's a good point. But I think maybe a lot of people just don't understand what the primaries are. But I do think it's a good point. But I will say this. In 2018, about 600,000 people voted in the Republican primary. In the primary in 2022, it was 1.1 million. Wow. They estimated only about 7% were former Democrats. This means that the Republicans are just seeing a surge in new voters. That says a lot. So I wonder.
Sorry. Who wants these new voters if they're if you still just hate Trump? Okay, so it's I still hate Trump as much as I ever did, but I hate how expensive gas is. So I'm going to become a Republican and vote against any of the pro-Trump people. But you're not a Republican.
Right. They're not.
Right.
They don't know. So look, we're politicos, right? We're deeply entrenched in all this stuff. The regular person is probably sitting in their living room and they're just like, they come home from work and they see their wife and she's like, how was work? And it's like, honey, man, I don't know how we're going to budget for this. I mean, I had to put $70 in the gas tank to get to work. We're not making enough money. That's just this Biden, these Democrats. It's like, well, I'm voting Republican. They don't know what the primaries are, what they mean for the most part. They just know they get the thing in the mail saying, go vote. And they're like, I'm voting Republican.
But if this woman represents some sort of like key demographic of these people, can we show the quote again, what she said?
Yeah.
She said,
I feel strongly that our democracy is at risk and that people who are holding up the big lie, as we call it, are holding onto the former president are dangerous to democracy.
That is not just somebody who's like, I don't know how to budget for the month and I don't really follow politics.
Right, but this is one person.
Right, but I'm just saying if she is representative of the mentality of a lot of these people making this choice.
So here's what they're saying. They're saying an AP analysis of early voting from data from L2 found that more than 37,000 people who voted in Georgia's Democrat primary 2 years ago cast ballots in last week's Republican primary, an unusually high number of so-called crossover voters, even taking into account the limited sample of early votes. I just got to say, in the absence of evidence, the solution that makes the least amount of assumptions tends to be the correct one. And what we have seen, I mean, I remember back in, it was like 2019 or 2020, We had the C-SPAN video where people were just calling, being like, I have voted Democrat for 20 years and I am sick to my stomach of this. I'm voting Republican. We had these huge stories. I mean, you're Mr. Walkaway. How many people have you met who walked away? We had 9 million people in 2016 switch from Democrat to Republican.
Right.
The simple solution is most people are just voting Republican because they're sick of the Democratic Party.
Well, I can tell you that in the testimonials that we had before Facebook banned our group in 2021, the videos and the written testimonials were all people saying that they had an awakening that I'd say the key thing that most people had in common was an awakening that they were being lied to, manipulated, and exploited, and that awakening led them to see that they understood why Trump was a salvation to a lot of people, and they even considered, they said, I'm going to vote for Trump. So it wasn't like, I'm going to go, hold my nose and vote for Trump this time, or I'm becoming a Republican, but I'm just not going to vote for the president. They were enthusiastic about Trump, all of these people the majority of these people walking away. It wasn't this woman.
Right, it's a good point, that why are they voting in the primary?
I think part of the reason they liked him so much is because, in a sense, they're getting out of an abusive relationship with a really terrible ex, and he's talking smack to him all the time. And they're like, you know what? I kind of like this guy.
Yeah. I don't know. What do you think, Ian? Do you think these are Democrats sabotaging? Do you think it's genuine?
Yeah, there's probably some people that are going to sign up for the other party to try and sabotage it, but I think a lot of people are disenfranchised with the Democratic Party. Biden's near demented at this state. It's really hard to watch him. Yeah, I'm very gracious about coming out and being like, dementia, Alzheimer's, like, I'm not a doctor. So, but it seems that way. And the Hillary Clinton email thing was insane. The way Bernie Sanders got screwed over two elections in a row, cycles in a row.
Let me ask you this way, Ian. If I made you an offer, a wager, as it were, for $1, you could bet that Biden is either suffering from severe dementia or he's not. And if you are right, you would win $1,000. Which one would you bet?
Dementia.
Wait. I should probably put it the other way around. What I'm trying to say.
Minds are fading.
My point, I
love
suppose,
the man. I want to help him.
If you had to wager $1,000 and you could win $1,000, which one are you going to bet on?
You give me 1,000 to 1 odds, whatever. You could bet me $1 for $1. I'd still say he has dementia. I don't know.
That's my point.
But that's my guess. He shuffles his feet and looks at the ground when he walks.
No one is going to risk any amount of money,
except for our entire economy.
Dude,
I guess 80 million people.
True,
listen to him do a video 10 years ago, and then put on a video from 10 weeks ago, and it's like two different people. It's terrifying.
That's true.
That he's in charge of the military.
That's true.
But Seamus, a lot of people in 2020, we had COVID lockdown. It was bad for a lot of people, and they said we need change. This was Trump's leadership. They probably thought it's going to be like Obama all over again. Those years, oh man, they're remembering being in college or back in the good old days. And I was like, I remember we used to go to the bar and play Wii Sports. And they're like, I got to vote for Joe Biden and bring back the Obama era. And now
Gonna bring back
flip phones? Vote for Obama.
Yeah. Remember that
Now
Tara
look where they
Reid
are.
story? I was trying to talk to my mother about the Tara Reid story because she didn't really know it. Had been getting a lot of info from CNN, and it's like, no, well, this girl, I don't know, credibly accused. That's a funny buzzword, credibly. But she was like, he pushed me up against the wall in the middle of the building, Capitol building, or wherever they were at.
And he did unspeakable things.
Yes, horrific.
Yeah.
And she worked for him. She was like one of his aides, and that just got pushed under the rug.
Totally pushed under the rug.
I'm lifting the rug up so you can look at it. Tara Reid, look at her name. It's Reade, by the way.
Joe Biden sniffs little girls. This is not
actually
even up for
sniffs
debate.
children,
There's
and he
videos
does
of
it.
him doing it.
And they don't talk about it. Isn't that so bizarre that's just not even discussed?
Can
Like,
I
the man
just-
has dementia and he sniffs children constantly. It's not
Let
like a
me-
one-off
Weird.
thing. I think here's the thing. Now, I know you guys are going to call me crazy and maybe, I thought conservatives were against cancel culture. I can't believe he's about to say this. I think if you sniff one child in public once, your career should be over. Joe Biden has repeatedly sniffed children.
For
It is
decades.
a pattern and it is
That's
constant.
The first time he did it, they should have walked him off stage and says, let's not do that again.
It's like, all
When
right.
regarding his leg hair being touched by the kids
my
in the
gosh.
pool that he was telling us about,
I got hairy legs.
I think maybe that it was like the kids were like, it's a sea monster, because the hair was real long, and he was like, the grandkids are, so probably not insidious.
I love when the media runs these stories where they're like, conservatives believe in conspiracy theories about a cabal of pedos and all that. And I'm like, listen. I think those conspiracy theories are pretty nuts, but it's not helping your case that Joe Biden is sniffing children on stage in front of the press.
And you're angry at bills that want to prevent sexual education for kindergartners through third grade. You're like, oh no, this is the hill we want to die on.
And not just that, bills that say you can't have secret conversations with children about sex that you tell them not to report to their parents.
No, the media just says it's not happening.
I'm the only adult you need to trust.
Well, that's the other thing, right? It's not just that these things are happening. It's that the media is either pretending they're not happening, or when they do talk about it, they try to completely twist the story and gaslight you into believing that you're the crazy one for being against these unspeakable things.
Don't say gay. Don't say gay.
You know that song "Institutionalized" by Suicidal Tendencies? I'm not crazy, institution.
Yeah.
We need to make a modern version of that, a cover. What's about the media? And it's like, I turn on the TV, I turn on CNN, I'm like trying to figure out what's going on in the world. And they tell me, Joe Biden didn't collude with the Ukrainian president to protect his son's business. And I'm like, yo, but there's video of him saying it. And they're just like, and then my mom comes in. You know that song? Do you ever see it?
So
the song's great.
It's funny. One thing I used to do, I was doing a cartoon a while ago about the scandal with old Joe Biden withholding funds from Ukraine so that they would do his bidding, basically, and back off the investigation into the company his son was working for. But, Burisma. And I was like, well, you know what? It's always good to get the other perspective. I don't want to spread misinformation if I'm wrong about this. So I looked up to see what the fact checkers were saying, because usually what they'll do is gather all of what the left perceives to be as the strongest arguments against a conservative statement or position. And I'm not kidding you. The fact check I read said, well, it was actually Obama administration policy. So it's mostly false to say that Joe Biden was doing this for his own goals or his own motives. It's like, what?
Wow.
He's the vice president of the administration.
They said that it was Obama's administration's policy to go blackmail the Ukrainian government.
Basically, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know. I'd like to see
You
that
know, I was
fact check.
thinking,
That's interesting.
imagine this.
It's a while ago.
Imagine anybody willing to vote for Joe Biden at this point. That means they're like, well, the economy is in the gutter. Gas prices have shattered records consistently. Inflation is shattering records consistently. He sniffs children, and they want to take away our right to keep and bear arms. Like, he is the epitome of a fascist and who's destroying everything. And they would prefer that. For what reason?
But you just very matter-of-factly listed all of those things, and it's like, that is insane. That is actually what is happening. That is the president of the United States right now.
I got the feeling that people were so angry. I don't know if angry is the right word, but so disillusioned or didn't like Trump so much. They're like, I will vote for poop over that guy. You give me a steaming pile of poop and I will vote for it. But I don't know if that's because they're diluted on psychoactive pharmaceuticals, and they don't feel like they don't understand. Maybe they're just low IQ. Maybe people just aren't as smart as I'm giving them credit for, and they're voting with their gut instead of their logic.
The average person, you mean? When you're talking about the people who voted? Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, so Time Magazine came out and published an article where they basically admitted that in every single way they possibly could legally, they orchestrated the election to ensure that they would get a specific outcome. And we live in a culture where people have been consistently trained to always take the path of least resistance and do whatever brings them pleasure as opposed to what makes sense. And what that results in is people who are just followers and will basically do whatever the media tells them, get upset about the issues the media tells them to be upset about, and vote for the people the media tells them to vote for.
I want to pull up this tweet from Michael Malice. He said, no one wants to take away your guns. No one wants to shut down your business. No one wants lockdowns to continue more than necessary. No one is going to force you to have a vaccine passport. No one is teaching your kids critical race theory. These are all just conspiracy theories.
That's right. Don't be a conspiracy
Nobody wants to
theorist.
indoctrinate your children.
That's right.
Yeah, that's never happened before.
That's crazy. Yeah.
They don't have kids. They have yours.
I like that he said they don't. It's not. What does he say? No one is going to. Before all those statements. Well said.
No
Michael.
one wants to.
Yeah. No one wants to. Fill this in.
They didn't want to. You made them do it.
Right.
I used to joke with my buddy Matt, and we'd be like, "It's not that I hate you. It's not that you're an idiot. That's not what I'm saying. You get it? You started off with it's not that, and then you just say what you feel."
Yeah.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to watch live, you can check out this channel Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Now, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and if you want more unfiltered and uncensored content with all of these guests, go to timcast.com and become a member. All of these guests you know and love in exclusive segments on our website where we are unrestricted in what we talk about, so you'll definitely not want to miss it. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all next time.